So welcome to another episode of the Media Services Worldwide podcast. We've got fantastic guests with us today. We've got Adam Peters, VP of Global Sales, and Jason Stile, founder and CEO of Ajustco. Now, this is a company you may have heard of, you may have seen them, depending on what stores you've been in or what industry you work in, but I guarantee you, you don't understand the impact that they are bringing to the market today. With their mission being to create and incubate new products that make people's lives simpler, both in the residential and commercial environment, I think you're going to love what they have to say. So again, Adam, Jason, welcome to the Media Services Worldwide podcast. We appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Thanks, Trevor.
Thank you, Trevor.
Yeah,
great to be here.
You're very welcome. Glad to have you both. And it's nice because, you know, Garry, our CEO, and I, and Linda, are one of the other founders of Media Services, we all had a chance to get together and sit down in person pretty recently and got to hear a little bit of your story. And I know we only scratched the surface, but just thought it was so compelling. Our listeners would love to hear about what you've done and what you're doing right now. And then bring it, into context and relevance to what we're seeing around the world today, and discuss how you're addressing the current situation, which we'll get to. But I want to turn the conversation over, to Ajustco, to Adam and Jason, and let's get a little history. So, what is Ajustco? Beyond the mission I just read, and give me a little background on the company and how it was founded.
Sure, Trevor. So, this amazing company traces all the way back to 2008, and interesting times now, 2020, looking back, because we just had a significant market crash, and that was the actual kind of beginning at that time. It was October 2008. You guys all remember, housing market collapsed. I was working as an electrician, and November. It was November. I had a dream. And, dreams usually have like all kinds of wild things going on, colors and, waterfalls and whatever's happening. But this dream was very unique in the sense of it was just blackness, like a black screen, and the image of this lock. But I didn't know what it was at the time. I just saw this image. I woke up. I looked at my clock. It was exactly 2 a.m. I think it was like the 28th or the 29th of November. And I drew what I saw, and I went back to sleep. I woke up in the morning, and I'm staring at this little sticky note with this image on it. It took me about 10 minutes for it to click, and I realized, oh, wow, this is a solution to a problem that I had working as a volunteer at a school in New York City just 2 weeks before. And I ran over to Google and I did a search to see if the product existed, and I didn't see it. And I was really surprised because it was so simple. And I spent the next, 8, 9, 10, 11, 3 years just doing research, filing for patents, just basic background work as I was continuing to work as an electrician. And then I realized I needed a partner who had some business experience. So I partnered up with a gentleman, and 2 years later we launched at the National Hardware Show in Las Vegas. So it's 2013. We launched the product and landed some large accounts right away, like B&Q, which is kind of like the Home Depot of England, took on 10 of our SKUs. We didn't even have product yet, ready. We didn't even have production ready inventory. And that's how it was all born. And the line has now expanded to what Adam will discuss shortly. But that was the initial, I'd say, pebble in the water that sent the ripples out that created Ajustco.
All right. So let me take this back a minute, okay? So basically, back in November, October 2008, right? You have this dream, which I'm going to refer to as the Back to the Future flux capacitor moment, right? You saw this vision, right? But instead, you did this in a dream. You didn't fall off the porcelain while hanging a picture.
Correct.
But you see this product, right? And I want to keep it, serious, because this product is not a fantasy. This is not a sci-fi situation. You are right on the heels of a recession, with the crash of a housing market. You see this product, in this dream. You write it down on a sticky note. You begin doing research, and in 2013, you get this product to market, and this product hits shelves of some major retailers with multiple SKUs. What was the product you drew? I think that's the question I know that I have, and I imagine our listeners have. What was this product that you drew that was a catalyst to this, to what we now know as Ajustco?
So it's so simple. It's if you Google barrel bolt, you'll see just a basic surface-mounted lock that you'll see typically on like a shed in your backyard or a bathroom stall. It's kind of like a secondary lock. You'll see it to close cabinets. You'll see it on boats. So it's just a basic barrel bolt, and the receiver of the bolt is of the traditional version is fixed. So when you have your receiver on your trim and your lock on the door, if there's a little bit of a shift up or down because of temperature changes or humidity, the lock doesn't function. So the vision that I saw was a adjustable receiver that would automatically move a little bit up or down to compensate for those fluctuations. And those fluctuations typically happen from summer to winter. If you live in a cold climate area, it's constantly moving. So, and if you look up the product, we named it Adjust Lock, which is eventually what led to the company being Ajustco, because we knew we needed a parent brand company that we could stamp on that lock and expand eventually into other products. So it's basically just an adjustable barrel bolt.
Well, I'm going to say thank you to you and Ajustco on behalf of every person that's listening, because I think we've all been in that scenario, whether it's been a fitting room or a bathroom door where we wish we had an Adjust Lock product, because you're trying to close the door, nothing's lining up. Then in desperation, you're trying to push the door up on the hinges to try to get the stinking thing to lock, or you're just lucky if just the very end makes a connection, but forbid somebody, opens the door next to you and it swings open. So, I mean, and for anybody who has a shed, tremendous. And you see how that is something simple, such an innovation, but yes, that Adjust Lock, keep your eyes open, everybody, and you'll know it when you see it, because you'll know it because you don't have a problem actually closing and locking the door as a result. So that's a huge innovation. So talk to us a little bit more, Adam, Jason, about how this product, this Adjust Lock product, grew into, as you mentioned, you knew that this was going to grow into a company that was bigger. This was going to be the beginning. Can you talk to us about that growth a little bit?
Yeah, so I'll answer this question, and I'm sure Adam can take it right from there. So we spent 3 or 4 years just traveling the globe, meeting with all of the major big box retailers in Europe and Canada and Australia, New Zealand, US, South America, Central America. And so now the Adjust Lock product is in 12,000 plus retail stores globally. And through going to trade shows and these different travels to meet with the big box retailers, we started to meet other inventors who were struggling and trying to penetrate into the same retail chains with their items. And also internally, our chief operating officer, Jamie Walsh, he was coming up with ideas, and people he knew were coming up with ideas, and we're constantly getting pitched. I've probably seen thousands of products, but through my experience, I've learned you have to have all the right ingredients to bake a cake, right? It doesn't come out right if you're missing something. So we only have now, I believe, 7 or 8 products that we've been working on since inception in 2008. And one of the main ones, which Adam's going to be discussing shortly, is the anchor thread. So half of our products, or 2/3 of our products, are B2C, meaning they're sold in retail chains. And recently, over the past 2 years, we've been developing some B2B products, which are sold directly to businesses, mainly in construction. So all of our products are hardware, construction, and Adam is going to get into the B2B line, which is really taking shape and changing the industry.
All right. Well, I think you've definitely set the stage for that. So, Adam, welcome again, and please, let's talk about this new current product that's, I know based on the conversation that you had with Garry, Linda, and I, is changing the. I don't want to just limit it by saying construction, but I'll let you dive deeper. But changing the construction industry and really innovating. So talk to us about this new product, please.
So the new product is called Anchor Thread. It's our current flagship product with a potential market that's about 1,000 times what Ajustco is. It's a new concrete anchor. It's installed pre-pour onto the wood forms and creates an attachment point available immediately upon stripping your formwork. No special tools to install it. My 5-year-old nephew could install the thing.
So I don't come from a construction background, right? And I think some of our listeners absolutely do. They're engineers, they're architects, they're GCs. However, for those that aren't familiar with what this product is at the core, let me see if I can take a shot at it and tell me if I'm off base or I'm on base. But when I drive by a construction site, particularly a high rise, I see those orange safety nets. I'll call them that. You could correct me if there's a more appropriate term, please. But those orange safety nets around the building, and they're anchored into the concrete, right? By typically, a thread that's getting drilled in. Am I right so far?
Well, they're drilling in and they're placing a mechanically fastened anchor to fix those nets.
Okay, got it. So I'll ask you this question, and I don't want to get you ahead of anything, but so these are traditionally drilled in. You're going to be able to touch on some of the detriments of just that process alone. But what you've done is you do this pre-pour, meaning at a very simple level, somebody just attaches the anchor point without having to drill it. Is that correct? And now can hang all this safety product up? Am I off base, or is that a simple way to put it for kind of our non-construction listeners?
That's exactly right. It's exactly right. The threads get baked into the concrete. So before they pour, they're installed in the formwork. Concrete gets poured, they strip the form, and you're looking at your brand new, freshly poured column, and your anchor thread is right there. So you don't have to drill. You just connect a coupling, and now you've got your wire, your cable, and your orange netting attached immediately.
Wow. And our listeners can't see, the pictures that you showed us. So I need to describe it again. What we've been shown by both Adam and Jason are what the typical drilling process looks like. And you would think that there's an anchor point, put your drill into the concrete, anchor. Apparently, from what I'm seeing, there's 11 attempts at drilling into the concrete, 40 attempts at drilling into the concrete. And it just seems like it's not a very effective method. Almost is going back to the 2008 dream, that brought us to the Ajustco product. You saw that there was something happening in the industry, which was drilling. Tell me about why you felt that you needed to bring a solution to the industry that got away from drilling.
Well, it's fascinating, right? These kinds of procedures or processes that have been going on for, decades, like the barrel bolt, right? And people ask me in the past, well, how come nobody thought of this? And the only answer I could come up with was most companies, the R&D departments are focused on like more high-tech kind of innovations. Like you see the locks on your door that now connect to your smartphone, or there's a fingerprint or an eye scanner. No one's really looking at, upgrading some simple old products. And I haven't really seen anyone trying to upgrade this drilling process. And like you described, when you're drilling into the concrete to place a mechanically fastened anchor, to attach anything. There's rebar, there's reinforced metal inside the concrete, so it adds more strength and gives it flexibility so it doesn't crack. And that's why you see those holes. You see 10, 20, 40, 50 holes, because if they hit the rebar, they have to pull the drill back out and keep going until they can get the proper depth to have the mechanically fastened anchor perform properly. So they're drilling. The silica dust is flying all over the place. They're wasting time, labor. They're standing on a ladder. And even now, as we're showing the large developers our new product, we get a little bit of pushback because of the inertia of just everyone's drilled for so long that they have a hard time realizing that there's another way that's way better. But once they actually do it, they get it and they don't want to drill anymore. And just so you know, though, this product, unlike the Ajustlock, which came from my dream, this came from a team of developers who build high-rises in New York City. And they approached us actually through our chief operating officer, Jamie Walsh, and said, hey, guys, we have this amazing idea. We see what Ajustco has done with Ajustlock and other products. Can you help us bring this to market? And we partnered with them about 2 years ago. And Adam has been heading out all of the sales and bringing the awareness of the product ever since.
You mentioned silica dust. This doesn't sound like it's a big deal, but obviously this is a big enough deal that you had a team of developers, move forward with a product to shift how the industry operates. Tell me about why that was important in regards to silica dust and this drilling process.
Sure. So I'll take that. So like Jason mentioned, the current procedure in order to attach to concrete is it's archaic. It's almost as if we're stuck in the 19th century with the methods still being used to connect the concrete. So, and like you mentioned just now, Trevor, silica dust, there's no cure for it. And the silica dust is not visible. Okay, it's dust that's less than 10 microns in size. It's not visible to the naked eye. It's an invisible killer. It causes a multitude of hazards, wasted labor time, materials, but the least of which is exposing workers to this silica dust, which is, if inhaled over time, is a death sentence. It's not like smoking cigarettes, which in some cases, there's at least a chance that you'll recover. Once this is in your lungs, that's it. It's not coming out. It causes lung cancer, silicosis, tuberculosis, emphysema, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or COPD, renal disease. I mean, the list goes on. And I mean, if you think about how many connections have to be achieved in just say a medium-sized building. So if you figure you have to drill around 200 connection points per floor for the slab, the MEP, the elevator shafts, the safety perimeter netting, like Jason had mentioned, that goes into the columns. Forget about 100 stories. For a 50-story building, that's 100,000 connection points required. Now, it doesn't always take 40 attempts or 50 attempts or 20 attempts to get a connection point when you're drilling, but let's just say average that down to 5 attempts. If if sometimes you get it on the second, or so average down to 5 attempts, that's 500,000 times that you had to drill into the building. So, and that's not all you have to do. It's not just drilling and you're done. You're supposed to vacuum out the hole, which is very often not done, fill the hole with epoxy in some cases, and then you've got to take a wedge anchor and take that and put it into that hole, and you hope that it stays there. This is what in some cases people attach to for safety attachment points. And from my look at it, it's kind of scary. And you'll also find, and what we found, Jason and I talking to all these workers that are in the fields, and even people that aren't in the fields, and they see what's going on. They see what their workers are doing. They see, the issues that come with this method that's been going on for so long. Is that if you ask anybody in the industry how they feel about drilling, you get the same answer. They hate it. They'll all give you the same answer. They hate it. It takes forever. It's dangerous. It's inefficient. It requires extra equipment. It's heavy equipment to accomplish. The list goes on and on. You've seen the pictures, Trevor. I mean, these are recent shots of real live job sites. I mean, and the fact that this is still going on, to me, when I started learning about it myself, it's absolutely mind-boggling to me. So that's the reason that this team of amazing guys who have been in the industry, they've done it. Jason's been up on the ladders. He's drilled thousands of holes as an electrician, thousands. He gets it. It's just not just some fly-by-night a bunch of guys that that figured they tap into this. I mean, these are former people of the design industry, the real estate development industry, and the construction. I mean, this is their background. So drilling has to stop, and it's going to.
I mean, extremely powerful statements. I mean, that last statement, drilling has to stop, and it's going to. And then just circling back to the dangers of silica dust. I mean, you mentioned lung cancer, emphysema, COPD, but you're bringing a new product to the industry right now. Like you said, people hate drilling, but your job now is to, and the job of Ajustco is to be an innovator with this product. So how are you actually integrating this new method? What's your process? How are you getting the word out? How are you and who is your audience? Right now, who are you targeting to help bring this product to light? I don't want to say to market, but correct me, to light.
Sure. Well, we just launched the product in February. So the majority of the industry just doesn't know that it exists yet, and they haven't used it. So this is a new product, and of course we just have the pandemic that just really started around that time. So that's had I'll talk about those effects in a little bit. But as far as the people that we're contacting, is any company that deals with concrete and needing to attach to it. So developers, GCs, contractors, anybody that's drilling into concrete, all the subcontractors that have to connect their plumbing, their electrical, the sprinklers, the duct work, this all has to be drilled into a concrete structure. And it's not just buildings, it's tunnels, it's bridges. This is also for precast concrete, that where they use these already produced concrete pieces that are tilted up in some cases to create concrete structures. They all need attachment points. So anywhere you're using concrete, there's almost always a need to attach to it safely and with as much strength as possible. And the traditional method, as we've said, has been to drill into concrete that's already cured. We figured out with this product, which is extremely simple, it's you put it in before the pour, it becomes part of the superstructure once the concrete has cured, and then you get to connect to this thread, and you're connecting to the superstructure. It's not something that's put in afterwards. You're actually connecting to that superstructure. So the strength of it is enormous. And that's just on the ones we've tested, which is the smallest size. I mean, we can very easily duplicate this, make it in a larger size, and the strength of it will just go up tremendously. So the possibilities of using this, it's super simple, but the benefits are tremendous, and the uses for it are practically endless. So that's it's so simple. I think of it sometimes as the thing Jason created, the lock that Jason created in his dream, almost like Velcro or the umbrella in your drink. It's really simple, but it's something I think that everybody's gonna want to use because it just makes sense. It's really a no-brainer once you get to use it and you're made aware of it.
Yeah, it sounds like it's absolutely a game changer. I mean, the way you're describing it right now, it sounds like this is the future of this process, without a doubt. Now, you recently, we'll touch on the current pandemic that we're dealing with and how it's slowing down a lot of business and industry right now. But before we get there, I want to talk to you. You guys recently debuted this product at a Vegas show. Can you tell me about the show and what you did and how you brought this to market at that show visually? What effort you put behind this, because marketing is key. Brand awareness, letting people understand what you're doing is especially when you're innovating an entirely new process that is safer and more effective. Can you tell our listeners about, what you did? Because I know a little bit, and you went through some extraordinary measures to demonstrate your product.
We've been, as you heard from the Ajustco story, we've been going to the trade shows for many years, and this show was special. We put a lot of energy. We definitely invested some capital into a really large booth. We had a 20 by 20 booth. We had it custom designed to really stand out, so we could get the attention of all the attendees at the show. And we also poured 4 columns right there in Vegas with the anchor threads embedded in them. So anyone who came to visit our booth could actually physically see it. They could take couplings and D-rings and perimeter wire, the cables for the orange nets. They could actually install them with their hands, and everyone loved it. I mean, everyone that came to our booth just was like, oh man, I get it. It was like when I first showed I had a little demo board for the Adjust lock, which was just the traditional lock on the bottom, offset, so a person could try to close it and see it doesn't work, and get that emotional connection to the time when they've actually experienced that problem. And then the Adjust lock on top, which is also offset to the same measurement as the traditional lock, and they see that it actually still functions. So with this, everyone's there like, oh my God, wow. They're visualizing having to drill holes on their job, seeing the anchor thread and realizing, I don't have to do this anymore. I don't have to waste time. We had people that own large construction companies. I could see them sitting there visualizing how much labor cost they're going to save in their head while they're staring at the thread in the concrete column. We were offering free samples, and also for certain large GCs, or actually any customer who wants to try it out, we were offering them a free install. Let's say they're doing a 20-story building. We'll say our team's going to show up with a certain amount of product, and we're going to install the product in a whole floor for you. So all of your subcontractors, the electricians and the plumbers and the concrete guys who have to do the perimeter netting can experience the product. And then that has led into orders, right? Because once a customer tries something that they see the benefit of it, whether it's money or time, safety, it's just a no-brainer. You just want to adopt it. So we were really demonstrating that strongly at the show. We had all the inventors there with us. We took a lot of video, a lot of content, and then Adam now, ever since then, even with the pandemic going on, he's been reaching out to all of those same customers, and they're all super excited and interested in using the product once their job sites kick back in after the lockdown ends.
So an incredible effort that you've put forth, and you, Adam, the entire team, to really create awareness, demonstrating this product as well, live in person on active construction sites. I mean, is definitely, putting your credibility, on the line and proving it and earning trust. So that's just a tremendous note for anybody listening. When you have a product that is solid, that has legs to stand on it, and that is game changing, show it. It's one thing to demonstrate it as you've done and to discuss it, but to actually demonstrate it in a live environment, it's obviously having great impact. Now, we've touched on the pandemic, okay, a couple of times now. I'd like to just discuss that briefly. And for, again, our listeners who may pull this up a year from now, this is specifically the COVID-19 pandemic and how it's affecting, global operations around the world. What has, Ajustco done as a company and with the anchor thread? How are you moving forward in spite of the current situations and in light of the end of this?
Like so many of us, Trevor, this has been a life-changing event, and it's affected each and every one of us in one way or another, and continues to do so. But I think what you touched on earlier and what we talked about, what I feel the company's barrier of entry is simply awareness and helping workers and changing the industry. And what this situation is with the pandemic, what it's done for us as a company, and with Anchor Thread especially, is it's created awareness. Which goes back to, again, what I discussed before. The way it's done this is the same way it's done it for us personally. In our personal lives, it's caused us to pause, to think about this current situation that we're in and ask ourselves, how do we make things better? How do we protect ourselves moving forward? And it also just a pause from our everyday hustle and bustle. We end up learning new skills, new ideas. I mean, many of us have had a little extra time on our hands, to say the least. I know I've become a better cook over the last 2 months. So in business, many of the companies, as you know, are on lockdown. Not in every state, but they're now even more concerned about doing things efficiently as possible moving forward. They have to be going forward to survive. Jobs that are shut down, like in New York, are losing thousands of dollars every day, just as if they would if they are shut down for other reasons. And most importantly, what's always becoming more and more important to companies and to people in general is our health and safety. And that, with this pandemic, has become even more important to these companies. And it's made those two, health and safety, all the more significant. And I think that has been a game changer. It's what's really been needed. It's taken everybody and said, hold on a second. What's the most important thing here? The safety of our workers. This was not much of a concern, many, many, many years ago. And it needs to be more of a concern now. And especially, in the US, where we take these things really seriously. We have to be more careful when it comes to the lives of our workers. So I think that most companies now, because of the situation, are going to use whatever powers are available to them to make this happen. Many companies want to become aware and find out how they can address these issues. Either way, the regulatory bodies and the workers themselves are going to hold them accountable, when it comes to safety. But I think that, like I said, most companies are going to want to become aware, and I think that's what the situation has done. It's made the companies aware, the people more aware, and it's helping. I can tell you more about how it's helped us in getting Anchor Thread, the making it aware ourselves, helping us make them aware of it. People are home now. The crews are not on the jobs working. They're home and they're not working, so they're free and accessible. As Jason mentioned, I've been actively connecting with the people we met in Las Vegas and the New York show, and they're more accessible, and they've paused and they want to learn about new things, and it's enabled us to show them about Anchor Thread, and they're looking forward to using it on their jobs when they start up again. So in that respect, it's that's what's changed. So I think that's been a benefit among all this chaos and suffering, which our hearts go out to everybody.
And I appreciate you saying that sentiment is relevant, I think, to say the least, because people, as you mentioned, are concerned, how do we protect ourselves moving forward? And that's at the very critical level of them, of an individual and their household and their loved ones. But going back to work now, that's the topic that's top of mind. How are we putting ourselves in environments that are safe or safer? And if there's a new innovative way to do it, I mean, that's excellent. And it's fantastic that you, Jason, the Ajustco, company organization is really pushing a product ahead. So I've got a question for both of you. Your company was created based on an invention, a true invention, and then brought to you by a team of developers with this product now. So innovation, invention is key. I'm hearing that it's key to what Ajustco is. What would you say to individuals right now sitting on an idea, perhaps that have an idea, or Jason that had a dream, wrote it down on a Post-it, and aren't doing anything with it because they're waiting? What would your advice be to you back in 2008?
That's a great question, Trevor. I would say that, if someone has an idea and they're not sure what to do, that's exactly where I was initially. And I wound up talking to a lot of people and getting some advice and just rummaging over for a while. I would say if you're passionate about it and you're willing to take that leap, that anyone can do it. You just have to make sure that you have all the right ingredients first before you. That's what I would tell myself. Really check into this, because there are so many ideas that it might not be the right time, or you're not willing to put in the 5, 10, or 20 years that's going to be necessary to really build it out, raise money and take on the challenge of fighting for shelf space in retail stores, or doing what Adam's doing right now, which is confronting an entire industry and the way they're doing things, which is old-fashioned and entropic, and convincing them to try something new that actually is way more beneficial. That there's a lot of energy that's required to make those changes. So if you're up for the challenge, don't be afraid. Do it. I mean, that's how every innovator or successful corporation we've ever seen. Most of them, we don't hear too much about the struggles. Maybe there's a couple of movies made that we've seen that show these struggles. Usually we just see, the quarterly reports, and we're buying stock in these companies and it's like already built. But the initial starting of that fire, that from the idea all the way until, millions of dollars a year in revenue, it's a struggle, it's a fight. And if that's what's burning in your heart, it's worth it, because without people that are taking that challenge, without people that are willing to pioneer something, we wouldn't have better opportunities. We wouldn't have a better way of living in this world. So I would definitely say go for it, but do your research, build your foundation properly, and don't look back. Just go with it.
Couldn't be more relevant, couldn't be more timely. Appreciate that advice. I think our listeners will absolutely, in fact, I know our listeners will appreciate that. Now, where would someone go right now if one of our listeners is interested in learning more about Ajustco and the product, the anchor thread that you are innovating right now? Can you just tell our listeners where they can go for more information, please?
Sure. It's simple. It's www.ajustco.com. That's AJUSTCO. There's no D in Ajustco. And all of our products are listed there, our contact information, and it'll lead you to some of the other sites. Like if you click on it, it'll lead you to AjustLock, or it'll go to Scribit or the Anchor Thread. And there's other products. We don't need to talk about them now. That the listeners can check it out if they want to see it.
Well, thank you for sharing that too. And Again, from the entire Media Services Worldwide podcast team, from all of our listeners, Jason Style, founder and CEO, and Adam Peters, VP of Global Sales with Ajustco, we can't thank you enough for coming onto this podcast, for really articulating your mission. And I'm going to just, end by how we started. I'm going to end this podcast exactly how we started it, with your mission, which is to create and incubate new products that make people's lives simpler, both in the residential and commercial environment. Truly innovating, again, in the face of evolving current events, but also promoting safety for the future of how the construction industry operates. I can't thank you guys enough for being such innovators, for being such great guests, and for having so much to bring to the table. So on behalf of all of us, thank you so much.
Thank you, Trevor. Thank you, Garry and Brett and the whole team.
So you again, thank you. And for all of our listeners, take from this podcast today, innovate. If you have the time, as Jason mentioned, do your research, know what's involved. Don't take this time to sit back. There are opportunities right now that present themselves for you to be a game changer. What started out as adjusting something very simple, such as a barrel lock, the Adjust lock was the catalyst for a business to now change how high rises are safely being built. And so think about that. Let it be your inspiration. On behalf of all of us at the Media Services Worldwide podcast and Jason and Adam with Ajustco, thanks so much for listening, and we look forward to speaking with you and hearing from you on our next episode.